Defending the Big Bang Paradigm by Name Calling. This is a blog post by our great scientist and one of the greatest scientists of our time, in my opinion, Dr. Glenn Borchardt, who is Mr. Infinity Guru, and also the greatest science philosopher of our time, in my opinion. Again, it's my opinion. This is his Scientific Worldview blog, and he comes up once in a while, and I'm on it, and I get emails, and once in a while they're just worth making a whole video out. And he says, "Go for it, Dave. I love it. Go for it." And this one, he is talking about somebody who has made a comment of a article written in Physics Today that basically, as he says, defends the Big Bang paradigm by name calling. There's almost no science. Well, there's no science at all. Name calling, and I don't know how Physics Today will come up with the idea that the article that was written there has anything to do with science. It's really a bullying article, if anything. So let's read first the article by Glenn Borchardt, which does include things from that article, and then we'll actually look at the article itself. Readers are familiar with the durable marriage between the Big Bang Theory and relativity. Without Einstein's massless light particle and its perpetual motion, the universal expansion interpretation and the Big Bang Theory would be toast. Anyone who objects to the absurdity must be denigrated, and any suggestions for change must be rejected out of hand. That's what he's talking about, somebody who is saying that, of course, the Big Bang's correct. Anybody who says differently is crazy. Well, let's keep going here in his article. In what eventually will be a classical opinion piece, the editor of Physics Today, published by the American Physical Society, summed up the situation. Column: "Sorry, crackpots, a Physics Today editor explains why we're not going to publish your cockamamie theories." The editor mentions letters from those who believe they've arrived at some startling new insight heretofore unknown to the professional physics community, often about how the work of Albert Einstein was all wrong. Shame on us. And it goes on to restate a familiar defense of the great man. Here's the defense. You tell me how scientific it is. If some error were to come to light in, say, the theory of general relativity, the discovery would be almost certainly be based on a similarly sophisticated level of understanding. We'll dissect apart that a little bit. The theory has withstood all the tests experimenters have thrown at it. All these phrases are just what's more, every measurement by GPS device requires a general relativistic correction to account for the slightly different speeds of clocks on satellites and on Earth's surface. If it somehow turned out that the theory was nevertheless flawed and the accuracy of GPS was just all a coincidence, that would be a big deal. Well, I'm going to go over this with a fine-tooth comb because there is so much in this. It's just too hard to pass up. Okay, critical thinkers, you got your critical thinking caps on, because we're going to rip this apart. It says right here, if some error were to come to light in, say, the theory of general relativity, the discovery would almost certainly be based on a similarly sophisticated level of understanding. What does this mean? Let me reinterpret this. If there was something wrong with the general relativity, we would find it because we have big super brains and we're really smart. And you're stupid, all you cockamamie crackpots. So it certainly wouldn't come from you. That's what the argument is. That's the opening statement in the trial against the Big Bang. Now, this person gets a failing grade right off. That's what that means. That's what it means. Read it again. Read it yourself. That's what it means. The theory has withstood all the tests experimenters have thrown at it. That is a stock phrase they use. I tell all my subscribers, go out and look up special relativity and all the experimental proof for it. Look it up. Don't go to this particle accelerators. This is special relativity. I know it's not general, but special relativity. Don't go to particle accelerators because they don't show mass increase as predicted by special relativity. And by the way, the experimental physicists who aren't really fond of theoretical physicists, they have to unteach it. Oh, and yeah, don't talk to the NASA scientist, the retired NASA scientist, Dr. Edward Dowdy, about how he doesn't see light bending in space when it's outside the corona of the sun. That is, when it's outside of mass. Ignore that. Okay? All this experimental evidence. But Einstein said, I think it was him, because there's so many quotes that they say, he says, 1,000 experiments can support my theory, but one can show me wrong. Well, NASA guys showed you wrong. Particles accelerators show you wrong. General and special relativity, according to Einstein himself, he's wrong. What's more, every measurement by GPS device requires a general relativistic correction to the account for the slightly different speeds of clocks and satellites on the Earth's surface. No. It's gravity. General relativity says that gravity is because of this, but it isn't gravity, because gravity can be something else. It can be gravitons. It can be an ether model. But it's not general relativity. It's gravity. If general relativity causes that, if that's what they say, but don't even get me into that, because it's not that simple. It gets to be really messy. Also, it just turns out that a person who has 30 patents in GPS says they don't use relativity in their calculations. And other people I know who are in GPS. And why is that? Well, because their algorithms are worth billions of dollars. Billions, hundreds of billions of dollars are made on GPS. You think they're going to give their equations to someone to check? Because then they become open source, as we say, and anybody can use them. It's worth a lot of money. So the people who are doing them, they're happy that everybody's saying that this is, but as one GPS scientist said during one of our conferences to Greg Volk, my great friend, he goes, "Hey, Greg, wink, wink, we don't use relativity in GPS, wink, wink." But these guys, they just go spouting this off. I mean, come on. Who are you going to believe? A guy who has 30, I'm sorry, I'm sure if I talk to him now, he goes, "Dave, I've got 37 now." Ron Hatch is a brilliant guy. Love him. It's an amazing person. Well, maybe he says, no, he's not a crackpot because he's sort of made a lot of money on GPS. They actually bought him and his company Deered to drive tractors within centimeters on the field so they can save millions of dollars. Go see EinsteinWrong.com. Go see it. I have it in the film. If it somehow turned out that the theory was nevertheless flawed and the accuracy of GPS was just a big coincidence. No, it's not a coincidence. It's called engineering. And guess what? It was finagled. They didn't take the equations, calculate them, and put them up there. They had to test them, and they had to. People are still doing that. They are not using equations and going, oh my gosh, we're off. No, they're going, how can we tweak this? Do we put another sensor? Do we do this? Do we add a number here? It's engineering. That would be a big deal. There's already 1,000 big deals, Mr. Sir, who wrote all this. There's 1,000 big deals, and you're clueless. Because you don't look at all of those things. Well, let's see what they say about all of those things being sent. Astute readers know how much of relativity, except for E equals mc squared, equation borrowed from Maxwell. Notice he put it there. It's not his. E equals mc squared may not have been Einstein's. Really, it involves Einsteinisms, predictions, right or wrong, right for the wrong reasons. GPS does not use general relativity. It does require a correction for altitude. In the ether, and this is what he's saying, this is exactly what I said. So Glenn Borchardt, who is an etherist, he says GPS does not use general relativity. It doesn't. It says it does require a correction for altitude. Yes, it does. It's called gravity. In ether, deceleration theory, I explain that the altitude effect has as a result of increasing ether pressure, decreasing ether density with the distance from the Earth. What is he saying? Well, ether isn't uniform. So he has a real physical explanation, not general relativity, which is math, which they call, what is it? Foam in the quantum foam, it's a fabric, it's not a fabric. You can bend space, you can bend time, you can bend space-time, you can bend the fabric of space-time. They don't know what they're talking about. It's all math. Like the atmosphere, entrained, decelerated ether forms a halo around the Earth. That's what's entrained. That's just what this means is, whether you're in ethers or not, Glenn Borchardt has a real answer, a physical reason why they do that. And it's not general relativity. This is a physical reason for what is claimed to be curved empty space in relativity. You can curve nothing. You can curve nothing. You can curve nothing in general relativity, okay? Don't tell anybody. Oh, it's that whispering thing. You know, you hear that thing about whispering. Maybe I should do all my videos like this. It's the latest craze. Not only is the increase in ether pressure responsible for gravitation, but it also causes clocks to run faster. Again, in general relativity theory, these effects were claimed by Einstein to be a result of curved empty space and time dilation. It's pretty crazy. Because light velocity is a function of ethereal pressure, the waves from any source are stretched out slightly. Each detection of the resulting so-called gravitational redshift is claimed as a confirmation of relativity in the magical space-time curvature and time dilation. Einstein was right, but for the wrong reason. And it's not the only model. We have a particle model that can describe this as well, and there are lattice models that describe the same thing. So what he's saying is completely correct here. Readers also know that there are over 9... Get this. This is a really great point. I love it. In fact, I'll probably make a whole video on this. I'll take credit for it, and I won't tell you that it was No, I will. I never do that. Borchardt's a brilliant man. I love him dearly. He is incredible. I always sit and talk with him. Readers are also know that there are over 9,000 dissidents opposed to various claims of relativity and its birthright, the Big Bang Theory. I know of no other discipline having such great opposition from so many angles. You know, that's what I always say. You know, it's not like he's getting these people in physics departments are getting one letter every 2 years. It's not like there's a couple of people around the world who are they think he's wrong. There are thousands. And not only that, there are a silent majority of people who are engineers and physicists themselves who aren't buying it. They just don't say it because they don't want to be labeled a crackpot. It'd be like saying, oh, well, there's no global warming, and there really is. And I'm not saying there is or isn't, folks, so don't get on my case. I'm making an example. True, most of the suggested reforms are no better than relativity itself. It would be overwhelming for I know of no... Okay, I did that. Okay, we did. I'm sure. True, most of the other suggested forms are no better than relativity itself. It would be overwhelming for the editor of a news magazine like Physics Today to choose among them. It is much easier to assume Einstein is always right, and any mention of him is in a less than favorable light gets the circular file. This is brilliant. Well, I see it over here, but I got to point to it on the other side. It's like the mirror world. Anyways, Dr. Glenn Borchardt, you have done it again. You are a great scientist. Expansion tectonics, though. Have you thought about that? Glenn Borchardt's great. All right, so let's go forward. This is the actual article in Physics Today, and this is what I like. Look at that's the top. I try to get, you can't always get it really great, but I like to take screenshots. It says right there, column. Sorry, crackpots. Now, how scientific, how do you think that anybody's going to take? This is for people who are arrogant. These are for intellectuals. What are intellectuals? People who aren't smart or critical thinkers. They're not smart or critical thinkers. They're great at parroting. They're great at trying to put other people down, to denigrate them, to make them feel bad, to bully them. That's what this article is about. Sorry, crackpots. And it's just amazing. A Physics Today editor explains why we're never going to publish your cockamamie theories. Wow. You know what's really funny is if you are a true journalist and you're a true scientist, you never say never. The most crazy theory could end up being correct. So, bad journalist, check mark. Bad scientist, check mark. Two neutron stars spiral toward each other and merge in this numerical relativity simulation. Don't you love those? They're numerical simulations. And it's on a supercomputer, so it looks like that fluid and stuff. Because you got to do lots of calculations to do that. That's why a lot of these movies that are animated, that are so realistic, take a long time. Because you've got a lot of calculations. That must mean it's real. And that's one of the problems with these kinds of things. It's one of the things I always say. It's the graphics that look pretty. It's all the words that sound pretty. It's all the things that sound logical until you really look at them and really think about them. And that is part of the problem. At my family Christmas gathering, see, now here we go. You want to see the arrogance of this person. I was sitting at the dinner table across from my uncle, a retired geologist, when the conversation turned to my job, which of course is important because I have a big brain. He knows basically what I do. I've been at Physics Today for 12 years now. That means I know 12 years worth of physics. I am almost like tenured. And we talked about it before. You know, I'm a super brain. Remember that? I'm a super brain. Not usually occupied. Most of our feature articles are invited by our staff. Once we identify interesting and important topics in the physical sciences and seek out the right people to write about them. Listen to this. We identify interesting and important topics. Who the F says that you are the people who choose those things? You have to say, we choose what we think are important topics. Look at the way he writes. This is arrogance incarnate. We identify interesting, important topics in physical science and seek out the right people to write about them. Censoring? Yeah, absolutely. You certainly wouldn't want to do like, why don't you let Dave de Hilster write an article once in a while and get the other point of view? No, you cockamamie crackpots. I'm going to tell you at the end, don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. There's two things I'm going to tell you. And you will be I'm writing them down so I don't forget them, because this is being made because I've been doing so much. Okay, stop, go forward. But significant minority of articles do come from authors who reach out to us unsolicited. We get a lot of good ideas that way, ideas that we might not have thought of ourselves. My editor-in-chief reliably informs me that our most viewed print article of 2018, Introductory to Physics Labs, We Can Do Better, by Natasha Holmes and Carl Wyman, January, has its original orders in an unsolicited proposal because it met all the criteria, didn't it? Which is, don't criticize mainstream physics or cosmology. To find those gems, see, there you go. Who says they're gems? They do. To find those gems, because I'm 12 years at this place. I've got a big brain. They've not fired me. I will tell you. Come to me. Come to my feet at my throne, and I will tell you if we need to sort through piles of promising submissions. In particular, we get a lot of letters from eccentric amateurs who believe they've arrived at something startlingly new insight heretofore unknown to the professional physics community. The professional physics community. Often about the work of Albert Einstein was wrong. Some of those I explained to my uncle can be rather amusing. Let's take a look at this. Professional physics community, and often about the Einstein. So it says startling new insight. Number one, the things we're talking about isn't a startling new insight. It is the foundation of relativity, both special and in general, is on quicksand. Sorry about that. We're not talking about tweaking, and we're not talking about people who don't understand. To find that something is on quicksand, you have to understand it better than the mainstream. Get it? And we're accused all the time of not understanding it because they have the big brains. We don't understand it. We're children. It's the opposite. But again, I'm going to tell you at the end why it does not matter what they think. He looked thoughtful, but isn't it possible that one of them is right? And this is another thing. I am your science therapist. Read between the lines. I've said this many times. What's this called? It's called the savior syndrome. Even Dr. Alexander Unziger and other people who I admire, who are going against all of particle physics, really think that one person's going to come along and answer the question. It ain't going to happen that way anymore. This is my David de Hilster contention. I'm telling you my opinion. It's too complicated now. It's like anything that we make now. There's no operating system. There's no car. There's nothing we build that has any complexity that one person knows. It requires cooperation. Guess what? That's what the next theory is going to be. It's not going to be a savior. But is it possible that one of them will be a savior that will come and be right? Will be the next Einstein and will incorporate Einstein and said, we just missed this little thing? Or is it the reality, which is it's all in quicksand? We've already thrown it out and we already have better models, so we don't even care. I understand why he asks. We at Physics Today appreciate a good everything you think you know is wrong story as much as anyone else. No, you don't. If you did, you'd write about it. What a big lie. What they're doing is they're trying to say we're not dismissing this. And they are. So they're out and out lying right there. My story in the February issue about the unexpected change in spin rate in chemical reaction arguably falls in that category. No, it doesn't. Because that's just a little teeny thing and a little teeny thing. That you're making a nuance of a 1% out of 100% when we are saying trash relativity because it's on quicksand, which most people, when they learn about it, have the same objections, and they're right. Oh, why does mass increase just because you go close to the speed of light? You're not telling me a mechanism for it. You're not telling me why. Oh, and by the way, this idea of space, time, bending, what the heck is it? You don't tell me why either. What that is. Those are the problems. It isn't a tweak in the equation. It's not some savior going to incorporate relativity into the new next theory. It is a subtle result. Bingo! Dave de Hilster. Ding! I won't say it, no. A subtle result. See, I told you it's not a big result. But the implications are potentially profound. They always say that. You know, it's a tweak on a tweak on a tweak on a magical potion that's not really real. But it could mean everything to everybody. It could mean life and death to everybody on this planet. Molecules don't always behave the way we expect them to. And some humility is warranted when considering how much we think we know about them. How about the Earth has been expanding exponentially for the last 200 million years? We have no idea really why, and we're trying to figure that out. How about what's real physicality of a magnetic field, or what light really is? It's not a wave and a particle. It's not a duality. It's really got to be something, etc., etc. And that we have an eternal universe because every time we get a bigger telescope, we have to amend the Big Bang because we keep seeing stuff that shouldn't be there because the Big Bang tells us. Importantly, though, the work that has been done by experienced physical chemists using state-of-the-art experimental and computational techniques. Not a guy on a surfboard, looking up at the stars saying, hey, dude, I got a new model. It's hardly a case of some plucky outsider taking down the arrogant. Whoa. Is that like, how today in politics they're getting so bold, they're just telling you, yeah, we're going to Venezuela because we want the oil, not because of some dictator. They're just saying it now. Well, look at this. This guy's just saying it. Plucky outsider. Plucky is actually sort of a good thing. It's, I'm a linguist, so I take plucky as sort of that's a positive word. That's not like a crackpot. Taking down the arrogant establishment. Yeah, and it's not going to be one person again. If some error were to come to light and say, look at this, Listen, let me explain to you. I'm terrible at accents, so my daughter's going to kill me. If some air were to come to light and say the theory of general relativity, the discovery would be most certainly be based on similarly sophisticated... Oh, we did read this in the other article, so I'm sorry about that. At least you got it read to you different. We've already touched on this, and I knew we would. But I'm sitting there getting so riled up. Next. We will not, however, be the ones to publish the research paper. Physics Today is a magazine, not a journal. We don't publish original research, and we're not in the business of evaluating the correctness of new theories. Get your work accepted by some reputable peer-reviewed journal first, and then we will consider it in our search and discovery department. But if you know enough about physics to have hope of disproving Einstein, you surely know that already. I won't even talk about it. I've talked quite enough about all of this. So here is one person's 24 days ago. This has been up a little while. It says, this is really great. GPS flies in the face of special relativity in that you must operate with universal time to make it work. Further, it has been proven that light uses more time to travel one way around the Earth than the other due to the Earth's rotation, and this is in accordance with the Sagnac effect. Sagnac effect is that when light goes around in a circle, things don't work so well. That the speed isn't exactly what we think it should be. The Sagnac effect disproves special relativity's interpretation of Michael's and Morley experiment. You do not use general relativity in order to make GPS work. It is a basic calibration process that is done quite often and in relation to fixed and single universal time. The fact that atoms spin slightly different speed in higher orbit compared down to the surface can be explained by using non-relativistic theory, and then when calibrating, one doesn't use advanced general relativity calculations, but simple error-checking adjustments to a universal time. This is probably somebody who knows a lot about GPS. It sounds like it, because I've talked to Ron Hatch. This guy knows. After all, one error adjustment comes from the fact that light moves slightly different speeds around the rotating Earth. Something amiss in general in the general relativistic formulas, and also goes against Einstein's idea that the speed of light is constant. The headline of this article shows the big problem in today's paradigm in theoretical physics. A self-preserving, peer-reviewing body stamps anything as crack pottery, no matter how well a paper is written. At the same time, loads of poor quality science is published, if it is in accordance with the core view of the paradigm, wormholes, multi-universes, etc. I couldn't have said it better. This is an absolutely wonderful answer. And remember, folks, I'm here to try to get you to understand this, to keep yourselves with a critical mind. Because when you read these things, in their little world, what I call their unicorn world, in the world of unicorns, everything can be beautiful. And everything can seem to make sense. But anytime you have people writing absolutes that we choose what's brilliant, we choose what's interesting, we choose what's the big theories of today. And they don't treat all of this with speculation, because it all is. Every equation, everything that we're using is wrong, because the universe is the universe. Everything else are our symbols to try to manipulate, to describe and then manipulate the universe. The idea of being a physicist is to make something useful for someone else. And there are two things I want to say. What do you do with articles like this and all the rebuttals that go down below this, that start to jibber jabber and talk about like this? Sagnac effect does not disprove relativity, special or general. Just says it. The effect, in fact, has nothing to do with relativity. It's due to the fact that light takes one time interval called t1. See, there he goes. He's not talking about anything physical. He's now talking about equations. So what he's going to now do in this entire thing here is tell you about the equations. He doesn't tell you a physical thing. He doesn't tell you the practical engineering thing that they do and it works. And if they don't do it, it doesn't work. So what are my big conclusions that I wrote on my scrap paper that I know I always forget? Two things. This article from Physics Today says, sorry, crackbox. This is a minority viewpoint. Physics Today and Joanna L. Miller are in the very small minority. I remember in the year 2000 census, when I was doing my film Einstein Wrong, I looked up what was going on in the world of physics. Who was getting physics degrees? How many people were there? There were 37,000 people in the United States that put the check box, a check in the checkbox of physicists in that checkbox, out of hundreds of millions of us here in the United States. And if you talk to Dr. Alexander Unsker, the people who win Nobel Prizes sort of fell into, I'm going to go into particle physics. And they weren't people of the best minds. I'm sorry, they were not. They're sort of like the politicians. They're the ones who will play by the rules. They're the ones who will say, oh yeah, this is all right, relativity is all right, you guys are all wrong. That will be just like this author, Joanna L. Miller. They're going to be just like her. And they're going to repeat these things, and they are going to get their Nobel Prizes. But the majority, if you ask Dr. Alexander Unsker, the people who are physicists who run away screaming from particle physics, from theoretical physics, from cosmology, the Big Bang, relativity, space-time, multi-verses, all of that stuff, they don't believe it. They're silent about it because they're afraid to speak up, because then they'll be chastised by these people who have lots of money and build colliders, because governments are afraid that they're going to find a new particle and they won't be the last one. All of a sudden Europe with the Higgs boson, no, they got the God particle. They have now world power. They can kill us all with a bomb this big. So they're in the minority, the very small minority. Out of physicists, the number of people who are theoretical physicists are so small. The people who work in the accelerators don't like them. So this person, Joanna L. Miller, even though they have the bully pulpit, they're the loudest. They are in such a minority. They are they are insignificant. They are insignificant statistically. The majority of us, including you subscribers, or some of the people who go for all this, who are going to write things that I'm going to delete because they don't talk about anything in science. If you put a comment, you're a stupid crackpot, goodbye. Tell me some science. Argue against it. Read about it. You guys, my subscribers, you guys are critical thinkers. When some piece says, I'm going to bend space-time, you go, what is that? That's not a stupid question. So the majority, 99.99% of all scientists, physicists, and engineers especially, don't buy any of this. When they read this article, they laugh. So, should we answer? Dave, how do we answer them? Look, it's in Physics Today. I feel like I'm joining your channel and we're only 3. We are the silent majority, folks. Like somebody who subscribed to my channel about a year ago, he says, Dave, you should have millions. Yeah. He said, you should have billions. Why? Because this stuff is a unicorn world. We're not doing tweaks. We do understand it. We understand it better than you. But we don't care. I don't care what you know what she's doing? I always say this. She's relegating herself to obscurity. That's my quote. I use it. Just say David said it, She is relegating, and Physics Today are relegating themselves to obscurity. That means 100 years from now, the guy who made that really great rebuttal that we read about the Sanyaku, maybe he's doing work that people will be using. And he will be maybe noted. He may be a notable scientist. Joanna, she's just going to make a part of that other side, which no one cares about, which doesn't see any of this, who are arrogant, who too arrogant to see, lives in a bubble. So I hope that helps you. We are in a silent majority, and I mean a vast majority. And the more we have people out there, the more people who are brave to talk about this. And I will do it, I promise you. May 1st is when we launch our Science Woke website. May 1st, write it down. When that launches, I'm going to open up some floodgates. We're going to get people in this direction. I have people that I think are open-minded, who are critical thinkers on the progressive political side, that I know that they'll be shocked. They won't be shocked. They're going to find out. You mean big physics and big cosmology are no different than big pharma? Absolutely. And that the journalists like Neil deGrasse Tyson are no different than the people that we see on CNN or Fox News. They're all just mouthpieces. They're not journalists. Yep. Well, I think this has been a really interesting day. I didn't expect this, but I want to thank Dr. Glenn Borchardt. Please read his work. Go to dissentscience.com. Go to the recommendations. See his books. Look him up get every book from him. He's an amazing man. Subscribe to his blog. I have all the information below. And remember what I say. Stay critical. Stay thinking. I'm David de Hilster. I'm your science therapist trying to get you to the land of science woke. Or you're already there and I'm just making you woker and woker and woker. Ciao for now.